Hello. Yep, 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 yep. I am going to try this one more time. I see that the electric vibe is in the chat. Thank you so much for that amazing interview with Craig Rice. It was so incredible. And so thank you, Christina, for joining us. How are we sounding right now? Give me some feedback. I really do appreciate you hanging in with us. Amazing. Awesome. I hope so, Drea dances. We will see if the internet gods align. Okay. And I feel like I don't want to touch anything on the roadcaster, so we're not going to be love sexion or nothing since our sound seems to be okay. All right. Thank you so much. You're such an amazing community. I don't know what happened. I haven't changed anything on my computer or anything like that. But I think we are back, Celie.
How's that, everybody? Am I trying to...
No.
Don't let me be the one mess it up.
So
Did I mess it up? Let me know if I messed it up, y'all.
Yes. So I think we're back. I was just telling them, Celia, I'm so afraid to touch any buttons because I'm
Said, don't touch nothing.
Yeah,
don't put your hand on nothing.
I don't want to. That's funny, Big Sexy. Oh my God. That's like, let's blame Michael D. That's right.
That's right. That's right. Don't look here. You know that TV only work on channel 2. Don't change the channel.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad that we're able to get this right because I really didn't want to have to reschedule our conversation with Seth Neblett because I'm really looking forward to it. And while we're waiting for Seth to join us, which will be shortly, let's talk about the singles box set for Around the World in a Day, for Record Store Day, Black Friday, November 28th, 1998. Yes, Kim.
That's right. Don't move that soil.
That's right. That is so right. So, and there's only going to be 1,985 copies because Around the World Day is from 1985. So, is anybody else excited about this box set? I am. Now, I love these singles box sets. I'm hoping that one day that they will begin to release 12-inch box sets versus the single box sets. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. Okay. It doesn't seem like anybody is excited about the singles box set. It's just me.
No, well, I'll say this. I don't know if it was last stream or before. I'll tell you what I was guilty of. I was one of those people that was guilty of, oh, I got that. And what I learned was you may have it, but for people who don't have it, it's good. Also, things get, redone, they get upgraded. You get the special commemorative things. And so I'm learning to not brush off things just because I have them. And so this is one of the things when I looked at it, yes, I basically, technically, as far as the music, have everything that's there, but I'm still excited. One, because it's pretty. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like it's
pretty.
Yeah, there you go. It's pretty. It's pretty. And so that's number one. Like you can really see, and it really takes me back to, like, I remember having that Raspberry Beret 45. Like I remember seeing that and looking and seeing like that was a Raspberry Beret 45. So I am really, really happy that people who didn't have these and can't chase them down, they're getting to have them. And for people like me, because I'll let you in on a little known secret. I'll let you in on a little known secret of how cheap your boy is. A lot of my digital stuff, let me put it this way. I got all my print stuff in digital, but it doesn't sound that good. You want to know why?
Why?
because I transferred it all myself from analog to digital. Remember when the little record players came out and you could put the CD in and you could record the record player to the, so all my Prince digital is not from the estate and not from like all of it is from. And the reason I did that is because you remember back in the day when you had your 45s in your album and you could pitch them up a higher speed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to lose the pitched up higher speeds. So I just digitized everything myself. So I like the fact that we're getting things digitized and they're digitized properly. So I'm on the board. Like it, and it's just beautiful. It just really is a beautiful collection. There you go, Ken. There you go.
Yes. So one thing that D68A pointed out in the chat, and I was surprised. I can't remember how much it is in the States, but I think it was like $133. And I need to go back and see how much was like the Sign of Times box set. Obviously, everything has gone up though since then. I mean, like everything. So I don't know. This is funny. Chris Bournet says you made your own Camille box set.
I did, Brother Bournet. I did. Yeah, I've always liked listening to things fast because live is faster. Whenever live is faster. So I've with every 45 I had with every album, that little extra made it a little bit. Sister Kim, I was thinking tariff, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't want. Yes. That's definitely what I was thinking. Them damn tariffs.
Yes. All right. So let's get through the housekeeping really quickly. This is week 40 of What Did Prince Do This Week? And this is a very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book club series, as well as a salon. And I just got to say, we have such an amazing community. Like, we had so many technical difficulties and you all came back. I so appreciate each and every one of you. And we're going week to week, not date to date. And everyone should know what that means by now. And you can follow our detailed schedule with this bit.ly link or QR code because it is about reading the book. And JD says, C. Lee, did you have to identify when each track started going from?
I'll tell you the cool thing about the machine that I had, Brother JD. You could hit a button to change the track. So I'll take a picture of it at some point. But so the record would be playing, and when one song would end, and you got the ability to do it, and then I would just hit the button, and the button would change it into another track.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was a really cool. And what I liked about it, it looked like a vintage RCA record player. I got to take a picture of this thing for you to send it to you, but it looked like, but it was like completely like updated and everything. So yeah, it was a cool machine. I got one. I got my father one, and I want to say, when I got my father that thing, he almost cried. It was like the greatest gift because that man had stuff that he had from the 40s and 50s. He wasn't finding that on CD. So like literally, my father disappeared, and people thought he was dead because he literally spent like 2 weeks digitizing his records. Yes, sir, Brother J. That old RCA phonograph, the old phonograph.
The Victrola.
There you go, the Victrola. Yeah. By the way, who had, as they started kit, the little pink or orange record player with the little pink or orange records? Anybody had a little starter kit record player? It almost looked like a play school record player.
What was it, the Fisher Price? I know Fisher Price had a record player.
Yeah, the Fisher Price that it actually played records. The Fisher Price play school record player. Who had that?
Yeah, for sure. Yes. All right, let's get through the housekeeping really quickly before Seth joins us. So you do not need the paperback version, but that's what C. Lee and I have because it is the one with the dot because it has 50 more pages and it is updated, fixing anything that needed fixing and adding stuff and all that jazz. And then these will be archived at Polished Solid as well as at MDean. Please help me spread the word on Prince's work ethic as well as Duane's amazing books by, as you come on in, please hit that like button as Pretty Ricky would say, and help us spread the word. We really appreciate it. This is our hashtag WDPDTW. And if you ever want to send us anything, you know how to reach us at that Gmail. And this is an independent endeavor. The estate of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected with the What Did Prince Do This Week book club series. And we choose to be a community even when we disagree.
Amen.
Yes. And just again, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and we want to acknowledge that. And thank you so much, Levine, for coming back with us. And at the beginning of the other stream we listened to, that's all there is to it, from the 2017 amazing No Words by Eric Lees and Paul Peterson. I'm not touching that one button, so we won't hear it again. And this is episode 143, week 40 of 1985 of What Did Prince Do This Week. You can see that this is sort of a trend right now for Prince. 0 songs studio and 0 studio sessions. And if you look at this week, there's an edit of Screams of Passion that Prince didn't have anything to do with. And then the release of Sheila E's Holly Rock, which we all should know that Prince wrote. And
Holly Rock. Everybody want Holly Rock. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. And also is in the Crush Groove film, if you haven't seen Crush Groove.
Crush, grooving, body moving,
Crush. And if you're local, if you go to the Alamo Drafthouse Theater in Manhattan, they have this huge replica, meaning like 8 or 9 feet replica of the Crush Groove VHS tape. So you can get your picture taken there. Me and Kim, the timekeeper, we took our picture by the Crush Groove VHS replica. So you can do that too. And then we're transitioning into October, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And on Wednesday, it was the release of America. So this is what happened this week. And as you can see there, for September, there's a lot of empty dates because Prince is working on a little movie called Under the Cherry Moon.
So 2 quick things. Was I the only person who put Scarlet Pussy on the record player and didn't know if I had the right speed? Like the first time I played, I was like, it's supposed to sound like this, right? So that's the first thing. So that made me think about that with them releasing this. It brought back up, like literally, I didn't know for like 3 days which speed was the right speed for that song. And then secondly, and I mentioned this before, I was the only idiot who thought that the 12-inch of America was going to be what we got on the video. So I was the only one that was mad. I hated, for years, I hated the 21-minute version. I hated it, not because it was bad. I hated it because I thought we were going to get that live version. And literally like a year or so later, when I finally said, man, let me listen to this stupid song. And then when I listened to it, I was like, oh, this is wonderful. I spent a year missing this. So yeah, but I did not like that. Because I wanted that live version. All right, that's it.
So Scarlet is the B-side to I Wish You Heaven.
Yep.
Oh,
that's right. Never mind. Yeah, I'm way ahead. Never mind.
Yeah, you're on a different album.
Yeah, I'm on different. I'm 3 years away. That's my bad, y'all. I don't know why I'm thinking Scarlet and Around the World Today. Never mind.
I was like, where did we get?
Right. Why are we talking about that? There you go. I don't know why I thought about that. Oh, you know what I was thinking? For some reason, I was saying Scarlet, but I was thinking girl.
Oh, yes.
But you're right. 3 years later. Never mind.
Yeah. But what I had the same experience though, Celie. I didn't know, like, is this the right speed? I don't know. And then we had talked about how with Love or Money, I would play it in both speeds. I can't tell you which speed I prefer because I would just like, let's play this speed. Let's play that speed. So that was one of my favorite 12 inches of all time, Love or Money, because I just had so much fun for sure. All right.
He was bad. Women say he was the best. Up in there. Oh yeah. I walked around for months singing that part.
Oh my God. That song is so, I can remember I was in my dorm room at Georgia Tech when I first listened to that. I know exactly where the record player was. That was a very transformational moment for me. I was like, what? This is such an incredible song. Okay. So let's start our reading with Screams of Passion, which is September 29th. Celie, do you mind doing the honors?
Sure. Screams of Passion edit. Sunset Sound Studio, 6 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. Booked 6 p.m. to open. Producer Prince, artist of family, engineer Peggy McLennan, assistant engineer Mike Cluster. You want the quote from Jerome?
Yes, we'll take
Okay.
a quote from
This is
George.
Jerome Benton. You've got to remember that Prince was only one person with great ideas. So he can only implement ideas as he could, one at a time or maybe two at a time. But something's going to lose attention. Something's going to lose the element of having the important stuff done when it needs to be done. A lot of Prince's projects ended up that way. Still, it didn't take away from his greatness, though. Even Prince on a half-ass idea is better than most.
That's right.
This drastically abbreviated session consisted of Peggy overseeing an edit of The Screams of Passion. The track had already been out, and so this was possibly created for a promo or radio version. The song had just entered the Billboard's Top 100, where it peaked at number 63 before falling off the charts after 6 weeks, which was frustrating Paul Peterson. Quote, the single was out and there was no promotion, nothing. We didn't have any idea what was going on. It was just so unorganized. That's, of course, St. Paul. Despite the long wrap up time and the incredible music that was created for the project, there were no firm deals in place for the band members. So they were working on a handshake and a promise. But at the time, some of them could barely pay their bills. This is St. Paul again. It wasn't easy. I was living at my mother's house. We didn't sign. This is Jerome. Now, quote, we didn't sign the contract that was put in front of us because it needed to be restructured. And I remember a conversation of, let's wait till I get back from doing Under the Cherry Moon to do this stuff, end quote. The reaction, is this Jerome still talking? The reaction of the family, the reaction to the family concert was a sign of things to come. However, I never knew what was to come. I was never let in on the plan. I was told enough. I was a paid employee. Again, I wasn't that tight with him, reveals Peterson. All right, this is St. Paul still talking. Prince went off and scored and started the movie. He moved me to LA and I started singing, acting, and dancing lessons. He never told me what he had me doing the stuff for, ever. A smart person would go, he's grooming you for a movie, Paul, but he never came out and said that, end quote. A single C60 cassette was made of the day's work, and because Peterson was now in Los Angeles, he either picked up the cassette at Sunset Sound or was there for the session. Prince was still in France and couldn't attend, so the work order was signed by St. Paul. That is it.
All right, so we are ready. We have our guest here. I am so very excited to welcome to the virtual stage, Mr. Seth Neblett. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. No problem. Thank you. It was a little bit of delay to get in there, but I got in.
No, you got in. You got in. And I am so thrilled to talk to you. So I actually learned about your book from one of the pop cons. I think it was whichever pop con that you had the round table with Lynn, and I was able to meet Apollonia. It was actually a really great conference. But the thing I was most excited about was learning about your book.
Thank you.
And it is an amazing book. I already got my copy, which I'm very excited about. And I wasn't able to read all of it because I just got it maybe a week ago.
Yeah.
But because, just so you know, you're on What Did Prince Do This Week? And for those of you who may not know, but you should know that Seth Neblett is one of the co-hosts of the Apollonia Studio 6 podcast.
Yeah.
So that's one Prince link. I'm always trying to let everyone know, like, where are the Prince linkages? There are actually a lot of Prince linkages and links to this book. Prince is talked about in this book. Obviously, we should know that George Clinton was on Paisley Park Records. And what some of you may not know is that Seth's mom, Malia Franklin, is all in Graffiti Bridge.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, during the Clinton Club part, during like Weekend Funk, which is one of my favorite Prince songs of all time. But Miss Malia Franklin is in Graffiti Bridge. So these are the Prince connections. If you're going to yourself, why are we talking about P-Funk and the ladies of P-Funk? This is the reason why. So there are definitely some connections. I actually want to start with a question before we get into your book, because I don't want to forget to ask this question. It's a little not related, but it may or may not be related, but I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So Betty Davis, the singer, during the 70s is one of my favorite artists, but there's little known about her.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, did your mom, or was she ever like affiliated or connected, not necessarily in terms of performing, but like maybe they were on the same show, or did your mom ever talk about Betty Davis? Like, I'm curious.
They were never on the same shows or anything like that, because kind of when Betty went out was around the time that Parlette and the Brides were coming in. So there was never really a cross connect between them. She was definitely an influence. I can say that Betty Davis, when it came to the Women of Parliament, Funkadelic in general, probably George Clinton's biggest influences were Betty Davis and LaBelle. He always said that Parlette was the P-Funk version of LaBelle.
Yes. So before, we had some technical difficulties earlier, and so we had to start the stream a couple of times. And we asked in the chat, like, what were the two female groups that came through P-Funk? And several of us knew that it was Brides of Funkenstein and Parlette. So I was born in 1970, and my uncles and aunts sort of were like my DJs. Like, I grew up listening to what they listened to. And obviously they listened to Parliament and Funkadelic. And obviously they listened to the Brides of Funkenstein. But I didn't find out about Parlette until maybe 10 years ago. So can you talk a little bit about, first of all, the P-Funk universe is massive. I mean, massive. And I haven't done the due diligence because I'm a hardcore Prince fan, and Prince's universe ecosystem is massive as well, but not as massive as P-Funk's. And I know that once you enter that world, it will swallow you up, because there's so many different incarnations of bands and so many albums. And I just like, how how do you find that people find out about Parlette, especially if they weren't, they're living through that period of time?
Well, the thing with Parlette is very interesting, because Parlette was actually the first female girl group from the Parliament Funkadelic universe. The Brides were second. And I think that really what had to do with Parlette, and a lot of it is described in the book, is there were very big plans for Parlette. They were signed on Casablanca Records in 1977, 78. And at that time, Casablanca was probably the biggest record label in the world. And I mean, they spent tons of money on the album. They hired the Detroit Symphony Orchestra to play strings on it. The gentleman who designed the album cover was a very well-known artist, a Japanese artist, Sushi Nagaoka. He was probably most famous for doing the Pyramid album covers for Earth, Wind and Fire, doing the Spaceship album covers for ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. So I mean, he did a lot of art for Omni magazine, for people who remember that back in the day. So he was very, very popular at the time. So Casablanca put a lot of money into Parlette. The issue with Parlette is that one of the members, Debbie Wright, unfortunately, 30 days after the album, suffered a nervous breakdown.
Mm.
And at that time, you know, it really wasn't about music videos or anything like that. You had to be in record stores, you had to be on the radio doing interviews, and you had to be doing all of those things. So a couple of things happened with losing Debbie. The first thing that happened was Parlette had right after the album was released, they were supposed to go out as an opening act for Parliament Funkadelic. That was thwarted because of Debbie having a nervous breakdown. And then they replaced her. And by the time they were poised to go out again, they were going to go out in the summertime with Bootsy's Rubber Band as the opening act. And at that time, Bootzilla was out. So Bootsy's Rubber Band was huge. And then they had done some shows with Bootsy, really big arena shows with Bootsy over the summer. And then Bootsy had a nervous breakdown. And the fall tour of the United States that Parlette was supposed to open for Bootsy was now canceled. So what it really did was, unfortunately, it killed the momentum of the album. And another thing that kind of, I think, killed the momentum of the album too was the very first single. The very first single, the first Parlette album was called Pleasure Principle. Hi, Janet Jackson. Yes.
Right.
It was called Pleasure Principle, and Pleasure Principle was the first single. Now, this is the issue with Pleasure Principle. Casablanca, Neil Bogart, who was the president of Casablanca, wanted to put out a funk disco record to kind of fall in line with Donna Summer and the Village People, because he really wanted to cross Parlette over because of the fact, to be very honest, that because my mother looked Caucasian, my mother looked white. So because she looked white, he felt they could easily transition Parlette into mainstream. The problem was that even though Pleasure Principle in the P-Funk universe is a very legendary song, it didn't connect with the Parliament Funkadelic fans. Whereas if they had done other songs from that album, one particularly called Love Amnesia, that was right in that vein of Funkadelic and all the stuff that was out at the time by Parliament, Parlette probably would have went through the roof. So there was like a succession of, I think, wrong planning, losing a founding member 30 days after the album was released, losing a tour on Parliament, losing a tour with Bootsy. And then when the Brides came out, they were just ready. They had the promotion. They went right on tour. They got all the press. Their first single, Disco to Go, went top 10. And it was just, so everybody knows who Parlette is. I mean, the Brides are, but many people don't know who Parlette is.
That is correct. Now, actually break it down for us, like who were Parlette? And like, I know that your mom, it was like basically, again, there were 3 women in Parlette. Can you talk to us about who they were?
Okay. Parlette, the original Parlette, my mother, Malia Franklin, Debbie Wright, and Jeanette Washington, they were actually considered the first 3 members of Parliament Funkadelic, female. My mother and Debbie had been recording on Parliament albums since Parliament signed to Casablanca in '74. Debbie Wright and Jeanette Washington were considered the first female members of Parliament Funkadelic in 1976. And then, so they were the nucleus of Parlette. Parlette was really like the original girls, or Parlette would have been the Vanity 6, so to speak. They were the original 3. And then Lynn Mabry and Dawn Silva came in from Sly and the Family Stone and came into Parliament Funkadelic.
I did not, first of all, I did not know that until I started reading your book. I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, how did I not know this?
Yeah, Lynn and Dawn, and Lynn Mabry's actually Sly's cousin.
Lynn
and Dawn came in from Sly. And when George brought Lynn and Dawn in, he kind of had this bevy of 5 women that were the background singers for the group. And at that time, he hadn't decided who was going to be a Parlette, who was going to be a bride. It was just, he just knew that he wanted to do a trio and he wanted to do a duo. And originally, something that I uncovered in my book was that the original trio, meaning the Brides, was supposed to be the Brides of Funkenstein. And the original trio was supposed to be Lynn Mabry, Dawn Silva, and my mother. They were going to be the Brides of Funkenstein. And then Debbie and Jeanette were going to be Parlette.
Huh.
So there are some reasons why that didn't happen the way that it happened. A lot of that had to do with the fact that Neil Bogart, the president of Casablanca, was interested in my mother. He really wanted her as a solo artist after she fulfilled her commitment to Parlette. So his condition to George was whatever female group is going to be on Casablanca, Malia is going to be in it. And when George brought him the concept for the Brides of Funkenstein, for whatever reason, Neil Bogart didn't like the name The Brides of Funkenstein, which I thought is crazy because I think it's genius.
Yeah, it is.
He didn't like it. He liked Parlette, the name Parlette, because the group that was on his label, Casablanca, was Parliament.
Right, of course.
So he wanted Parliament and he wanted Parlette. So once the decision was made that he wanted Parlette, Debbie and Jeanette came in with my mother and became Parlette.
Now, in reading the book, because again, any book, I go to the index in the back and I look for prints. So I read all the Prince stuff. Unfortunately, I filter the world through Prince. And I didn't realize that the Pleasure Principle album by Parlette was one of Prince's favorites. That's kind of how, can you talk a little bit about that and how you found out about that?
Well, I found out about that from a conversation from my mother. But, there's evidence because many people don't know that Prince, one of the famous bootlegs that is floating around, is a Parlette remake called Cookie Jar.
Right. Yep. I love that. Yes.
That was a Parlette song from Pleasure Principle.
Yep.
Nice.
For those of y'all in the chat don't know what you gonna do when it gets you, put you in the Cookie Jar. That is, and you need to have both the original and Prince's version because they both are mind-blowing experiences. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I just love that boot. Yes.
So that is kind of a testament to, because Prince don't do remakes. Now, mind you, I'm a Prince head too. I'm a Prince fan too. And he doesn't do remakes like that. So if he's going to go in the studio and do a remake of a song, it really, really influenced him. The other reason that Parlette, particularly Pleasure Principle, influenced him was he told my mother that was the first time he had seen an interracial girl group.
Wow. Okay.
Where it was like the look of it was two black girls and a white girl. And that, of course, blended off into the Vanity Sixes and the Mary Jane girls and the girls that came after that had maybe the majority of the group was black, but there was always a white girl, a Caucasian girl to bring in that thing. So Prince said that when he saw the album cover for Pleasure Principle, that was his first time seeing that interracial, sexual girl group thing. And he really him and my mother had been friends for decades. I mean, I remember when the Purple Rain tour came to Detroit, because we were originally from Detroit, and they played, I think, a week at Joe Louis Arena. Prince gave me and my mother passes to go every night. We could go whatever nights we wanted to go, we could go.
Wow.
And also keep in mind, something that a lot of people don't realize is that Prince had a lot of Parliament Funkadelic employees in his camp. Billy Sparks worked for Parliament Funkadelic. Greg Brooks worked for Parliament Funkadelic. So there was a lot of Parliament Funkadelic people that were working in the Prince organization when Prince became, really big, or was on that rise to becoming really, really big. So there's always been connections between Prince, the Prince organization, and the George Clinton organization.
So while we're talking about Prince, because we definitely want to go back to your book, how can you talk about this in the book, but it would be nice to hear, how did your mom actually get in Graffiti Bridge? Because technically she's not on the song.
No.
I find interesting.
Yeah. A singer by the name of Belita Woods, who was pretty much the female singer with George by the 90s, is the one who actually did We Can Funk. But my mother at the time was living in Minneapolis and was doing many of the sessions with George Clinton at Paisley Park. Okay. She was still singing on the Paisley albums. One night she went to Paisley Park to do a session with George. George was late. She was sitting in the studio. Prince walked in. So it was just the two of them. And funny enough, even though her and Prince had been friends for maybe about, I'm not even gonna say friends, I'll say associates, meaning that he knew who she was, he respected who she was, and they knew each other socially. They had never like been alone, had a one-on-one conversation until this particular night. And they were doing, developing Graffiti Bridge, putting Graffiti Bridge together. And so him and my mother were talking, and that's when he, told her about the influence of pleasure principle and all of those sorts of things. Well, when George finally got to the session, Prince told George that I want Malia in the movie. I want her in the movie. And so that is the reason why she was in Graffiti Bridge instead of Belita, who actually sang the part. Prince personally said, I want Malia in the film. And funny enough, she got more camera time than George did.
I know.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at it this morning, grabbing these shots, and I was like, oh my goodness, like she is really the central, the one that the camera is really focusing on, even more so than George. I thought that was like something I hadn't noticed before.
Yeah.
In fact, that's when I think of that scene, that's what I think about is her. Like that is for me the one moment of that whole scene is I just think about her presence on that screen.
Yes.
Right. And the vibe and the energy that she's creating. That is George's club for me, is your mother on that screen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that shows, that just really just shows Prince's admiration for her in particular, that, he really, really cared about my mom. And he really, she was very, I think it was because, her talent. Yeah. But I think it was also because he knew how much she had contributed to Parliament Funkadelic. That there was a sense of respect towards her, that, that he just, had a certain reverence for my mother. And I think in things just like that Graffiti Bridge scene, is his way of showing his reverence for her.
Now, this is a really good segue in talking about how critical your mom was to the, I'm going to call it P-Funk organization. Bootsy got there because of your mom. Can you talk about how crucial your mom is to P-Funk?
My mother, even before Bootsy, my mother and our family, my grandmother and grandfather, were a lot of the glue in the very early days. In 1968, when George came to Detroit and was really trying to make Parliament Funkadelic break, for a year, him and his wife and their baby lived with our family. We provided shelter for George. A lot of the transformation, for some people that are the real deep Parliament fans, they know that the Parliaments was originally a doo-wop group,
right,
and then kind of merged into this psychedelic group. As my book talks about, all of that merge happened in our house when George was living with us. Okay, my mother bore witness to the change from the doo-wop into the psychedelic. In 1971, my mother met Bootsy Collins, who was a bass player. He had left James Brown by this time, and he was playing behind a woman that was like a local singer in the area. And my mother found him and said, I need to introduce you to George Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
And Bootsy and his band House Guests actually lived with us for probably about 3 months before he had even got a chance to introduce him to George. Bootsy is my godfather. So all of that happened within that era. So Bootsy coming in changed everything for Parliament Funkadelic. It changed the sound. It started creating the hits, the actual radio hits. And it wasn't just about these psychedelic hits. Like they're great hits like Maggot Brain and Free Your Mind, Your Ass Will Follow, and all of that sort of stuff. But when you start getting into Up for the Downstroke and songs that actually started to chart heavily, that was the culmination of George Clinton and Bootsy Collins, and sometimes Bernie Worrell, who was one of the great keyboard players of our time. And then after my mother became a full-time parlette and member of Parliament Funkadelic, meaning touring and all that, the second person that she brought into the fold was a friend of Parliament Funkadelic who had never worked with Parliament Funkadelic, but somebody who had been friends with her since they were teenagers, a guy by the name of Walter Junie Morrison.
Okay.
Junie Morrison was originally an Ohio player.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely talented. She basically did the same thing with Junie that she did with with Bootsy. Took Junie to George and said, you need to be working with this guy. This guy is the future of the funk, which he became with, writing songs like One Nation Under a Groove, Not Just Needy, Aqua Boogie. All of that is Junie Morrison. Okay. And then even when George became a solo act, kind of after the first Mothership collapse, the guy that did the music for Atomic Dog, David Lee Spradley, was somebody my mother ushered into Parliament Funkadelic. So literally every top 10 record that Parliament Funkadelic has ever had was with George Clinton and a collaborator my mother brought to Parliament Funkadelic.
Wow. Wow.
Every last one of them.
Wow.
And you think about one of the things that, my mother and many of the women did a lot of things in the studio that changed things, and really added to the sound. But one of the things that my mother did that really changed the sound, and I always say, if she got paid for every time this was sampled, she would have been a millionaire, which is she was the one that in the studio when they recorded Atomic Dog, and this is in the book, she's the one that started panting like a dog.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So that came from her mind.
Mm.
And you think about how many songs have sampled just that section
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of the dog panting.
Right.
Where really, in reality, if it was a fair world, she would be getting a royalty.
Right.
Off of that.
Right.
But of course, she doesn't even get the recognition. So, well, now she will, but she
will. And that's the reason why your book is so important. I wasn't really aware until I heard you speak and the panel speak at PopCon at how sort of hidden the women were in the P-Funk organization.
Yes.
And your book is so critical and important in making sure that all of these women, not just your mother's stories, really get heard and that people understand their contributions to the entire P-Funk universe. So I want to thank you so much for writing this book. And I know that it took you a long time to make it happen, because what's really funny, when I heard about your book and I was like, this would make an amazing documentary. But then I read in your book, that's kind of how it started. So can you tell us about the journey you've had to take to even get this here to us today?
Well, yeah, you're correct. This whole thing did not start off initially as a book. I met a very famous, very respected director in around 2003, a gentleman by the name of Paul Justman. Paul Justman was an award-winning documentarian who had actually just gotten tons of awards for a documentary he did called Standing in the Shadows of Motown on the Funk Brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. He was very interested in his second documentary being on the women of Parliament, Funkadelic, because he felt that was a good transition from Motown 60s into 70s funk. And me and him became really good friends. And he tried to sell that idea to different networks for a little while. And it just wasn't landing. And he said to me, he said, you know, Seth, you might need a book. He said, even with Standing in the Shadows of Motown, it started off as a book, and then we went from there. And so at that time, we kind of decided now the focus is going to be trying to find a writer to do a book. And we had met various writers, you know, really nobody kind of got it. You had to get it. You know what I mean? And they didn't really get it. And so after maybe 2 years of talking to different writers, you know, none of the women really being happy. And keep in mind, my mother, who passed away in 2010, she was still alive during all of this process. And, you know, so I moved out to LA from Detroit in 2005 or 2006, and Bootsy Collins was out here. And we were having dinner with Bootsy. You know, I was kind of griping about the book and, oh, we can't find a writer. And, you know, Paul Justman can't sell this idea and you know. And so Bootsy just turned to me and said, you do it.
Yep.
And I said, well, I'm not a writer. And he said, no, you're a writer. He said, you're smart. Everybody knows you. They all trust you. And you'll know when people are trying to bullshit you. Because you know the story. So from that moment kind of began my quest. You know, starting from the beginning of interviewing people and kind of structuring and putting things together. And, you know, that process really took me about 13 or 14 years. And of course, within that, my mother passed away. Another one of the women, Debbie Wright, passed away. A lot of people that had been involved in the book, Gary Scheider, Ron Dunbar, Bernie Worrell, they were passing away. So a lot was going on. And I probably got done with the book around 2019, where I just said I had to be done with it because I would be writing it forever if I didn't just finally say I have to be done. And interestingly enough, what I was doing, just as, you know, little promo things, is I would post little blurbs on Instagram, little excerpts from the book. And a woman by the name of Jessica Hopper, who is a book editor, writer, and also an unbelievable documentary director. She actually just directed this film that just came out on Lilith Fair, this documentary on Lilith Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Unbelievable woman. She contacted me on Instagram and she said, do you have a publisher? And at that time, you know, I had shopped into a couple places. Seemed like nobody was really interested. I was about to just self-publish it myself just to get it out. And she said, do you have a publisher? And I said, no, I think I might just self-publish. And the whole conversation started. And here we are. Now the book is out. It's on University of Texas Press, part of the American Music series that Jessica Hopper is a contributing editor. She's like the main editor of the series. Is #1 R&B soul bestsellers on Amazon as of right now. And the Washington Post just did an unbelievable review on it as of yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm like the accidental author is what I've been calling myself. Because I had no plans on this being my journey.
I want to ask you a question because I want to go back to what Bootsy said and said that you know this, so you know if people will be bullshitting you or not. I had the pleasure of helping a Mississippi civil rights figure write his memoir.
Yeah.
And he was a part of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordination. And so I had to interview other people.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what was your process of talking to various people? Not from the standpoint of who's lying and who's not lying, but from the standpoint of getting everybody's story told. Because what happens is when you talk to a lot of different people, you sooner realize it's not about truth. Yeah. It's about what Aristotle said, perception is reality. Yeah. And you can have the same thing happen to two people, but they see it completely differently. So what was your process of working through that kind of situation?
My process was kind of like this. Because I had, through my mother, kind of lived it, I knew the basic structure of the story. I knew what stories were important to the story. And what I tried to do is always keep the women at the forefront, and the associated interviews, asking them the questions, but asking them the questions as a lot of it as it pertained to the women. When you have somebody, especially as polarizing as George Clinton, who was running this whole thing, it could have quickly became a book about George Clinton because of the fact that everybody's talking about George, what George did, what George didn't do, and some of those things are there because they have to be.
Right.
But my process was to, really keep the women in the center. And you will see that there are times in that book that you're going to have very big differences of opinion, where one person says, well, it happened like this. And then the other person says, no, it didn't happen like that. It happened like this. As the writer, I had to keep a non-biased kind of attitude and not, I say in the beginning of the book, I'm not here to tell you what's true, what's not. I'm not here to give you my point of view of what happened as a child of this. What I'm here to do is to take the reader by the hand, take them down the road of the journey, let the people tell their story. And then the reader is going to have their own kind of sway one way or the other. I always believe that the truth, especially when you're talking to multiple people, the truth is always lies somewhere in the middle.
Right. Right.
So I wouldn't be an effective writer by taking a personal stance and saying, well, I think she's right and I think they're wrong. So I'm going to leave hers in and I'm going to take that one out. You got to put them both in.
Right.
And then, because that's how they feel, that's how they remember it. The only times that I actually made a editorial decision to take something out is if somebody told me a story that involved multiple people and I talked to those multiple people and they said, no, that didn't happen.
Okay.
And that didn't happen much, but it happened on a few occasions where there was a story that one person told me, and there may be, like, say, there's maybe 3 or 4 other people connected to that story, and I would ask those 3 or 4 other people, and they were like, "That never happened." So at that point, I made an editorial decision to say, well, maybe I should leave that story out, because I can't find anybody that's going to co-sign it.
Right. Right.
But that only happened maybe once or twice in the book process.
Good stuff. Thank you for that. Thank you.
No problem.
So what do you want us as readers, and this is technically a virtual book club, just so you know, we're actually reading Duane Tudahl's studio series books. This is actually our 3rd year. We're going week by week on reading this book, and we've actually had we've had quite a few authors this past month. We've had Andrea Swenson talking about her book about cornbread. And then we had another author, Ayo Yatunde, about her new book on Prince called Dearly Beloved. Yes. So technically this is a book club, and I'm hoping that everyone is going to go and purchase this incredible book, because we're going to talk about how amazing the physical copy is, because one, I love the size. I love the pages are amazing, and I'm going to make myself full screen just so you can see that there are actually photos all throughout this amazing book. And I wasn't expecting these photos. And there's some incredible photos, particularly I love the one of Sly.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I fought for that. I fought for that. That wasn't just, me and the editors, and I can say the publisher for the most part gave me pretty much anything that I asked for. And interestingly enough, because publishing wasn't my world, I had conversations with Duane Tudahl, who's a friend of mine. And, talked to him, talked to a couple other people that had their foray in the, had been in the publishing industry. And he gave me really, really great advice that I followed. But the pictures were something I fought for, because originally they only wanted to put maybe 20 pictures in the book. And I said, that's not going to work. I said, because one of the biggest issues is that people haven't seen them. They don't know really what they look like unless you're a real P-Funk fan.
Right.
So it's very, very important for me to make sure that visually these women are represented in this book. So I think it went from 20 pictures to 70, 65 or 70. And, I can say that the publishers, Casey Cottrell, who is the publisher, University of Texas Press, me and him worked very closely on this book. He was my very first editor for this book. And there's about 100 pages of the original manuscript that didn't make it in this book. There's another 100 pages of stories that maybe, hopefully, with if this book continues being as successful, that maybe there'll be an expanded edition, and those 100 pages can go back.
We hope so. We hope so.
Because there's stories about my mother and Shaka Khan beating up a girl in the bathroom and all sorts of good stuff that people would love.
So that means that everybody in the chat, we got to do two things. We got to buy a copy, and y'all know what I like to say. We got to give books as gifts. So after we buy a copy, buy a second copy and get it as a gift, particularly to a young person. Give this book as a gift, and particularly to a young female, so they can read this and know their history. I'll shut up. Go ahead, brother Seth.
And as I say that too, I do want to let people know as well. I definitely encourage buying the book from anywhere you want to, but also I actually have a GoFundMe going on because I'm embarking on a book tour. And I'm embarking on a book tour that's not being sponsored.
Right.
I right now have 10 dates on this book tour. I just did my first one in LA at Book Soup in Hollywood. A lot of Prince people were there. Apollonia was there. Sheila E was there. Manuela Testolini was there. Andre Simone was there, supporting this book. But I did start a GoFundMe. So if you go to GoFundMe.com and look up Mothership Connected Book Tour, I say that to say that any support of $100 or more, I will send you an autographed copy of Mothership Connected. And all of those funds help me continue to go around this country. These doors have started to open because of this book. And in 10 days, I go to Orlando, book signing. I go to Miami. I go to Atlanta. I do the Stax Museum in Memphis. I do the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville. I'm doing the Words and Music Festival in New Orleans. I'm doing Source Books in Detroit. I'm doing, I just got another gig in Chicago. I've got a gig. I just got a new Amoeba Books in San Francisco. Just hit me up 2 days ago. And we haven't even started on the East Coast yet, or Minneapolis. So I think for these next 3 months, probably the rest of this year, I will be touring extensively, going into these doors, these prestigious bookstores and these museums to talk about my mother and these women. And this will be the first time in history that anybody has been able to walk into these doors and talk about the women of Parliament Funkadelic. And I don't want to miss one opportunity because I don't have enough money for a plane ticket, or I can't do that. I have to be able to go out there, represent these women, and represent this 20-year journey for me. This has been a 20-year baby that just got, birthed for me. So I got to do whatever I can. And so I'm just asking for people's help. Anything you can do just helps me continue the momentum with this thing.
Also, since it's late in the year, I would also suggest, because I know it would go well, as you coming back around for the new year, all of the major book festivals.
Yes.
Because the one thing that, if you look at all of the major book festivals, they always have great panels on music and books on music. So I know that here in Mississippi, we got a really great, the Mississippi Book Festival. We call it the greatest literary lawn. You got the Harlem Book Festival. So just as you are circling around, make sure you hit that book, because the great thing about the book festival circuit is that they will bring you in, and that way it'll take off some of the costs on you. I'll shut up. Go ahead, brother.
Please send me that information. Send me that information, and I will share any information like that for any event that you think Mothership Connected would fit into. Send me the information. I'll send it to my guy over at University of Texas Press, who's been setting up all these great events, because I want to be able to talk about this book. I want to be able to lift up my mother's legacy.
Yeah.
Lift up these women's legacies, and finally give them their spot in music history. Finally, and let them know that not only were they unbelievable singers who not only sang on all the Parliament and Funkadelic records and Bootsy records, but also had albums themselves, record deals themselves, but women like my mother were extraordinarily instrumental in Parliament Funkadelic evolving. And even after Parliament Funkadelic evolving, one thing that I talk about in the book was that in the 90s, Suge Knight hired my mother to teach the singers at Death Row Records how to sound like Parliament Funkadelic. Because as you know, all the Death Row songs had Parliament Funkadelic choruses.
Right.
So not only did my mother sing on a lot of that Death Row stuff, but she was also hired by Dr. Dre and Suge Knight to teach these women and men in Death Row how to harmonize like P-Funk, how to have that flavor of P-Funk. And what a lot of people don't know, which they will learn in this book, is that my mother is actually the person who introduced Dr. Dre to Roger Troutman, which was California Love for Tupac.
Incredible.
So, I have to tell her story. She's not here to tell it anymore. I've got to tell her story.
Can you talk a little bit about the personality and music differences between Parlette and Brides of Frankenstein? Because I do think it's important that people understand that was music happening and that they were kind of different music venues based on their personality and the kind of music that they were doing. So you could talk a little bit about the differences in music in those two groups.
Parlette and the Brides, and I guess the best kind of comparison would be the originals, because the original groups are George's intention, kind of like when replacements come in and stuff like that, it can change the original vision. So I'll talk about the original groups, meaning the original Parlette being Malia Franklin, Debbie Wright, and Jeanette Washington, and the original Brides of Funkenstein being Lynn Mabry and Dawn Silva. The Brides sound, it was funky, but it was much more kind of mainstream and laid back. It was, I think, more polished, more glamorous, almost like if you could think of like a funk version of the Supremes. Very, really pretty costumes, kind of just doing the two-step and being very close to the audience and all those sorts of things. Parlette was much more like LaBelle. They were more aggressive. The funk was kind of harder. They were vocally more powerful. They had the really big solos and the big riffs and the high notes and the whistle notes and and even live, it was very much the same live. Parlette was very much like the LaBelle, like the real space aged outfits and the crowns and all that sort of stuff. But even from a live perspective, they were very different. Where Lynn and Dawn kind of came out looking amazing and beautiful as they always did, but they kind of went to their, they went to their positions and kind of did their thing, and kind of did the unison thing and rocked back and forth and all that. Parlette, I mean, they came out and like Jeanette used to jump off the stage down into the crowd. You know what I mean? It was very, very, very aggressive. And it might have even been a little too aggressive back then, where it maybe made the brides a little more appealing, because Parlette. And my mother, she was funk, but she was rock and funk. My mother saying like, if you can kind of envision it, my mother was a combination of Janis Joplin and Mavis Staples crunched up.
Right.
So that was kind of the difference in the groups. Parlette was much more funky and kind of in your face. And then the styles changed as the times went on. When my mother left Parlette and she had been replaced, that style kind of changed. When Lynn Mabry left the Brides and the Brides became a trio for Never Buy Texas from a Cowboy, their sound changed and it actually became more like Parlette. It became more aggressive and in your face versus the original Lynn and Dawn version of the Brides. So it was different. It was different.
And I think that's an important distinction. And Meg, I'm glad you went there, because I think that's also the problem that people have. People don't know that they began as two distinct groups.
Yes.
But as the original members left, again, like you said, and the Brides become three, now it becomes difficult for people who are not in the Parliament Funkadelic universe. Now they essentially become one group. Because I've met people when I tried to talk about Parlette and the Brides, and they would all think, well, that's just the same group, right? I'm like, no, not at all. But to your point, as new people come in, as things kind of get clouded and everything, we were talking about today, looking at the book, when Prince had so many different things going on and not enough people to help him do them, then that original vision. So I'm glad you make that distinction so that people can truly understand they were two, and that's important for women, because I do think a lot of that of grouping them together is also because they are women. And we tend to live in a world where we don't let women be their own thing. Go ahead, brother.
Well, think about it. I mean, how many people think that Vanity and Apollonia are the same person?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
How many people who are not really Prince people think that Vanity and Apollonia are literally the same person?
Right.
And for Prince fans like myself, like I'm sure you guys are, Vanity 6 and Apollonia 6 really were two totally different groups, because Prince really took them in two totally different directions.
Yep.
Where Vanity was more aggressive and dark and kind of nasty, Apollonia was more cutesy and sexy and sensual, and we're going to talk about bunnies, and we're going to talk about me being, it's almost like the difference between Veronica Lake and Marilyn Monroe. There's a difference in these girls. They may have been dressed alike, but Prince specifically wanted them to be different. I remember Apollonia telling me that when they were going to film the sex shooter scene for Purple Rain, that Prince told her, I want you to go home and I want you to watch, is it Gloria? Redhead, Rita Hayworth. She did a musical number in a movie. I want to say it's Gloria, but it's Rita Hayworth. And he told her, watch that performance, and that's how I want you to handle Sex Shooter. So he was very deliberate in the fact that he wanted vanity to be one kind of essence, and Apollonia was a different kind of essence. That's why for a lot of us insiders and people that have followed it, we know that even some of the script was changed in Purple Rain when Apollonia came in.
Right.
And where it was a lot darker in Vanity's part, it became a little more lighter in Apollonia's part. But that is that whole, as you said, with women, you know, they kind of bunch them all together. And, you know, it's kind of like, why aren't they the same woman?
Right.
Wasn't Vanity in Purple Rain? Didn't Apollonia sing Nasty Girl?
Right.
You know, it was like, if you don't know, you don't know. So it's very, very important to you know, identify who is who and what is what. And that's what I really try to do with this whole thing, because people all the time say, oh, wasn't your mother a bride of Funkenstein? And technically she wasn't, even though she sang on all the bride stuff.
Right.
Because my mother was really the Jill Jones of
Yes.
Harlem.
There you go.
Harlem Funkadelic world. She sang on everybody's stuff. But she technically wasn't a bride of Funkenstein. She was a Parlette. She was the leader of Parlette.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about Apollonia and Apollonia 6, I cannot let you leave without thanking you for reuniting.
Yes.
Especially hearing from Susan
Yes.
all these years later. So I just want to make sure that I give you thanks for that. That's really, really important. And this was an amazing episode. So thank you so much. And someone had put in the chat, you know, like, when are you going to continue that? But I'm sure you have that. You got to actually focus on this right now.
Yeah. We will probably bring, me and Apollonia have been talking about bringing Studio 6 back. You know, for me, as a fan and as a friend, pulling off that Apollonia 6 reunion, if I don't ever do anything ever again with Studio 6.
You've done enough.
I've done it.
You've done it.
And then I'd really tried to ask every question that every fan wanted to know, starting with the hookers all the way up until today. That's why it was 3 hours long.
And we thank you for it. We thank you for it.
And again, because we're all Prince heads here, I know that you worked on a documentary called Diamonds.
Yes.
With Jill Jones and the late, great, wonderful Cat Glover.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about how did that happen? I know that it got sunset. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Diamonds, well, the way that Diamonds, or what Diamonds was supposed to be, was probably about 12, 13 years ago. I was developing reality shows with a woman, actually, that was from Minneapolis. And I had this idea, because I knew all these women. You know, I'd known Jill at the time, just socially. I was working with Maxie and Sherry from the Mary Jane Girls, original Mary Jane Girls. Sue Ann Carwell, who people know as probably one of the first females out of Minneapolis, was a good friend of my mother's. And so as we were developing these shows, my thought was, well, why don't we try to do something, you know, with these women? And really, it was about, Diamonds was more about being this reality show that kind of, I was kind of the nucleus of being a child of a woman that had been in the music industry, but the cast of women were all proteges of very powerful men. That was the thing. And it was about them trying to really reclaim themselves after all of those years, either being under the Prince umbrella or being under the Rick James umbrella. Originally, Miss Sheila E was in the cast. So we were going to have her, you know, with the Dr. Dre kind of scenario. We even talked to later, even Anna Fantastic was a talk about being miscast. And actually, when we first developed it, I had talked to Denise. I had talked to Vanity many times about this. years.
Mm.
And I can say that, of course, because of everything that happened, that was probably, I'm very, very thankful that I got those hours on the phone with her, and her telling me, things that she wanted to do. She didn't really want to do the diamonds thing because she felt like, her life with Prince was the past. She really didn't want to do that anymore. But she did talk to me about wanting to develop a talk show that she wanted to do at the time. In her words, she wanted to be like the Christian Ellen DeGeneres. That's what she wanted to put together. And she asked me if I would help her do that. And so it was nothing really happened with it. Diamonds, nor that. And really the reason nothing really happened with Diamonds is, unfortunately, most executives at production companies had no care for women that they thought were has-beens. I hate to say it like that, but that's the way they put it. So even though we had Kat, who at the time was, you talk about a hurricane, boy. Kat was like, and she became one of my really good friends, and I love Kat to pieces. And as a matter of fact, some people know that Kat initially did the interview for the Netflix doc. She didn't sign the release form. That's a whole nother story. But I actually did Kat's makeup and hair for her interview for the Netflix doc.
Oh, that's
she called me and she said, "Seth, you are the only person I trust. And you do this for me." And it was my job to make sure that she looked beautiful and that she represented, because people hadn't seen Kat in years, and she was having some health challenges and stuff like that she was going through. So for me, it was important that when Kat showed up, she looked like $1 million.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So actually I think, I'm a professor at NYU, and I do these annual Prince symposia. Yeah. And we actually had Kat join us in person in 2018.
Okay.
And and I've done 10 of these, but Kat walking out on stage and she did her dance is like one of my favorite memories. I'll never forget that moment. And she was just so generous. She was such a special person. Like her energy was like bananas. I mean, we had Dr. Fink and Ingrid Chavez. They were all through on the stage, but Kat hadn't seen Dr. Fink in a long time. And I was there like in the green room when Kat first saw Dr. Fink. She literally jumped up on him. He had to catch her. It was like so incredible. So yeah, Kat is a very, very special person, and we miss her dearly.
I love her and I miss her. Hurricane Kat. That's Hurricane Kat. I used to call her my Kit Kat, but that was Hurricane Kat, baby. I love her.
So I want to go on record, because I'm not saying this just because you're here. It's going to lead into the question I want to ask. Okay. But I want to go on record and say that my two favorite Paisley Park releases that are non-Prince releases are Cinderella Story and Hey Man, Smell My Finger.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of other things on Paisley Park. Those are my two. Those are my Paisley Park. So could you talk a little bit about what your mom talked about and shared being on those projects, and how those projects went? Anything that you can share on those two projects?
Well, interestingly enough, I do have a story in the book about when George was on Paisley and some of that stuff was happening. Prince signed George at a time when really no record company would sign him. He had such a bad reputation with the major labels that, they really didn't want to mess around with him. And because Prince has such reverence and love for George, he, took a chance on him and brought him on in. Now, also keep in mind that it was at a time when George still had a real vicious drug problem. Okay. So that was a challenge for Prince, because, this is one of his heroes that he loved, that he's technically in business with, who, you know, is not in the best shape. My mother talks about a story in the book where, you know, they would be at Paisley Park recording, and George would pull out the crack pipe in the studio. And Prince would just totally turned him off. You know, he would leave. And, you know, but George had already set the fire alarm off in Paisley Park a couple times. So what he started to do is he would inhale and then go to the door and get down on the ground and put his lips under the thing, go and blow the smoke, you know, out the door.
Wow.
But, you know, I mean, but Prince loved him. And despite his issues, you know, Prince, because really, in essence, even though it was George Clinton, it was really Parliament Funkadelic is what it was. Just under the George Clinton name. It was the same players. It was the same singers. It was the same energy from those 70s Parliament Funkadelic days. George Clinton was just the brand at the time. So for Prince to be able to really do Parliament Funkadelic records was very, very exciting for him. So he put up with a lot of stuff, you know, because for him, this was a dream for him.
Right.
So you've been so generous with your time, and I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do have one final question. I personally think that this cover is fantastic.
Thank you.
Do you mind talking about like how this came together? Who did you work with? And if you don't mind, actually walking us through who is on the cover.
Sure. The way that the cover came to be was another one of my kind of pushes with the publishing house. They wanted to actually put a photo on the cover, but there was not one photo that really encompassed the story. They weren't really particularly open about putting multiple photos on the front cover. So I just said to Casey, the editor, who by this time I was really close with, I said, we're going to have to do it old school. And we're going to have to basically make a book cover that would look like a Parliament Funkadelic album cover. I said, number one, I said, it's going to do exactly what George always wanted to do, and something that Prince was very successful at following, which was creating something that was so eye-catching that even before you heard it, just seeing it sitting on the shelf was going to attract your attention to say, what is this?
Right.
And you know, Morris Days told that story about how Prince, you know, had him out on the front with the cover, and how the other band members were mad because it was just Morris and it wasn't them. And Prince said, you need to have that image that is going to bring the person's eye to it. So that's how I was thinking. So I knew a really great illustrator by the name of Tim Stevens. He was also a Parliament Funkadelic and Parlette fan. He had done some Parlette drawings for me, like maybe 10 years prior. So I sent some of his work to the publishing house. They loved it. And basically myself and Tim worked together to create the positioning. You know, I told him what costumes I wanted on them. I sent him photos for reference. And then once he kind of had the portrait done, one of the great illustrators at University of Texas did the background. But the background is very significant, because what we have in the background is these light beams or what have you, these different color beams are actually from a Funkadelic album. I want to say it's either Tales of Kid Funkadelic or Hardcore Jolly. So I think it's Tales of Kid Funkadelic. The space background is a pretty common background that's used for all of the Parliament records from the 70s. The stars represent the stars from the One Nation flag of One Nation Under a Groove.
Mhm.
And then you have the ship up at the top, which is from Mothership Connection, the Parliament
Mhm.
album, Mothership Connection. Now, the women that you have on the cover, because keep in mind, there were a few more women that were in Parliament Funkadelic, but the women that are on the cover are the women that are featured in the book, the women that were main storytellers and participants in the book. So what I'll do is I'll start from top left. That is Debbie Wright, top left with the long hair. That's my mother, Malia Franklin, in the middle with the crown on. To the right is Shirley Hayden. Top three are Parlette. They were all members of Parlette. Right under Shirley Hayden, on the right side sitting is Dawn Silva. And right next to Dawn Silva, under Debbie Wright sitting, is Lynn Mabry. Lynn Mabry and Dawn Silva were the original brides of Funkenstein. So those are the 5 women that are depicted on the cover.
So I just for clarification, because you just blew my mind. Looking at it, I thought it was photographs of the women that got manipulated. What you're saying is these are all illustrations?
Yeah, he drew that.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Because
these
the
were
likenesses are just striking. That's
yeah,
amazing.
these were renderings. These were not
Wow.
pictures that he literally took the faces and the body references and created, me and him created the positioning of the photo.
That's amazing, brother.
Yeah,
That's
it
amazing.
truly is. So I also love the name of this book. Obviously, it's connected to the mothership, but
Yeah.
I'm curious, did you have other titles that you were considering, or did you come across, like come to this like immediately? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
The name of the book for the longest time was called The Girl Is Bad, which it was a name of a Parliament song. Well, it was a phrase from a Parliament song called The Undisco Kid.
Yeah, that's right.
It was bad. The girl is bad, bad. She's bad. So that was the title for a long time. And then probably once I had gotten the book done, there was something about that title that just didn't quite hit me.
Mm.
And funny enough, I was in the shower. Mothership Connected. Bam. That was it. And it just made so much sense.
It so does.
And from that moment to today, it's been called Mothership Connected.
Brilliant title. Really, really love it. Brilliant book. Again, I cannot stress enough. You have to support this book.
Thank you.
You have to learn about the stories of these amazing women, including Seth's mother, Malia Franklin. And you got to do it. And obviously, we want to spread the word. And there's actually a dedicated Instagram for the book. And Seth mentioned about the GoFundMe to help him do the tours around the world, because more people need to know about these women and their contributions to an incredible legacy that we all know and love in terms of the Parliament Funkadelic universe. And they are critical. Seth's mom is critical to those stories and legacies and music. So please, actually, Seth, I think you already have some of this, right? So Heavenly is asking about T-shirts and other merchandise.
Yes. Go to mothershipconnected.com or mothershipconnected.store. There are T-shirts. There are posters like this one. There are coffee mugs. There's different stuff there. Some licensed limited edition, licensed merchandise. So either go to mothershipconnected.store, or if you go to mothershipconnected.com, there's a link to the store.
Awesome.
You can get stuff there. Yeah.
And I just want to end by just thanking you again for taking control of your history, taking control of your mother's history, and taking control of these women's history. Because we live in a time when Black history is being purposely erased.
Yes.
And we live in a time when Black history is being purposely silenced.
Yes.
And I thank you so much for taking control and being another light and teaching people that no matter what, we still have the power to keep our history and control our narrative. So I just want to say thank you for that, brother.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm at home, but I want to show you guys, since we are Prince family here, I think you guys will appreciate this. Give me 2 seconds.
Take your time. We're not going anywhere.
I want to show you some things I have in my apartment.
Amazing. I already see Jill. I just saw Jill. So,
see the Purple Rain album signed by everybody.
Wow.
Amazing. Yes, we see it.
And then what's more important than that to me is there's one of the Prince Sign of the Times jackets.
Yeah, I was gonna say, look at the jacket.
I got that from Kat.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm a Paisley guy. So
yeah, I saw that Rolling Stone cover with Vanity and Prince on there. I saw Jill Jones from her album. Like, it's one of my favorite images of her, like with black, like see-through scarf thing. Amazing.
I've got Apollonia's bustier from the Sex Shooter video.
Wow.
I've got one of Kat's Love Sexy outfits. The one, if you do remember it, that had like was the top with the little black heart. It was white with the little black hearts and the little roses around it. I have that. So, you know, my Kit Kat is still part of my heart.
Yes. So thank you again, Seth, so much for coming on. And we just want to put up this fantastic cover one more time. Let's support and help Seth spread the word about this amazing book. I'm going to be honest with you. I started reading this and I didn't want to put it down. So I know I want to take time because I know that I can read this in one sitting. It is just that compelling. I was being sucked in. And I know it's taking you a long time to get here, but we so appreciate that you stuck with it and that you actually got yourself to an end date, because I also know how hard that can be. Ooh. You have to kind of let it go and go into the world, whether you want it to or not. Like,
that's right.
So we really appreciate you sharing this with us, sharing your mother's stories and all the women of P-Funk. And their contributions. It really means so much to us. And thank you again.
Thank you for having me. And you, anytime, guys, anytime you call me, I'll come just to talk about Prince. So,
well,
you know, if you want me for the round table, just call me.
I'll do that.
Hey, look here, you say it now, but Prof Duff will put you to work. Look here, she'll turn you into a Mississippi mule. I know, she'll put you to work.
Did you see you just saw my apartment, right? Okay, I'm ready.
You're ready. You're ready.
You give me Paisley, you give me 80s. I'm down. I'm ready to talk about all the proteges and all of it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So actually, we just had a symposium a couple of weeks ago. We celebrated the Gold Experience in Exodus because it's 30 years. And then in April, we're going to be celebrating Parade and Under the Cherry Moon, and obviously 10 years since Prince's passing at NYU in Brooklyn. So we're just like so grateful for all that you do. Also, the Apollonia Studio 6 podcast has been so incredible. Everyone that you interviewed on that podcast, it's always great to hear additional stories. So we so appreciate the time that you have put into the Prince community, and also now the P-Funk community. And I hope that people will take the opportunity to learn more about the legacy of P-Funk, because it is so critical to Prince's, development as a musician. And, I had never really I'm going to be honest with you. I had been thinking about Betty Davis as like a through line to Vanity 6. But after, seeing the photos in here, I was like, I don't know. I mean, maybe Prince was drawing off of Parlette and the Brides of Funkenstein. And then hearing you talk about that thread from Betty Davis to LaBelle to Parlette to Brides of Funkenstein, and then to Mary Jane Girls, and then, Vanity 6, there is a through line here. So I want you just again to thank you. And I'm going to make myself big really quickly because the back cover is also just incredible, and also it's purple, so we love that. So thank you again, Seth.
Thank you.
Have a great day, and I'm going to remove you from the screen.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, that was such an incredible conversation. I hope that everyone runs. This is such an amazing book. And I'm not just saying this. I started reading it and it is so compelling. You're going to learn so much. I learned so much just by like reading the table of contents, looking at all the photos, reading all the photo captions. The photos are in this book are incredible. So I'm so thankful that Seth actually fought to get all of these images in the book. They're really important. And I personally love the size of the book. Like it's not a small book. And also, like, again, I read a lot of, books, and it's just rare when you have a book that feels good. Like when you touch the pages,
Right.
it actually feels good. And like some of just the attention to detail with the typography, it is an incredible book. It really is. And here's like a photo of Junie and like so many amazing photos here. Oh, this is a fantastic one of Don and Lynn here. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that
is
amazing shot? Yes.
That is great.
Yeah. So many amazing shots in here, so much history. And I'm really looking forward to this. This will give me an excuse to start really diving into the P-Funk universe because I know that there's so much to learn. And like I said, I didn't realize that like Lynn was in a part of Slide's group, before actually getting this. I was like, how did I not know that? Like, so we're going to be learning a lot from this book. So I hope that you will all pick it up for sure. All right. So we're going to get back to our What Did Prince Do This Week? Because we had such a rocky start, but I'm so happy that the internet gods aligned and we were able to have our conversation with the amazing Seth Neblett. And C. Lee had just read to us about the Screams of Passion. And you can see the work order here from Sunset Sound. And what's interesting about this, and also C. Lee read this, but I noticed this without reading it. At the bottom, normally we would see Peggy McCreary's signature here, but then I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's St. Paul's signature. So St. Paul signed this particular work order. Duane talked about that in the book. And then in terms of the time, you can see that the setup was an hour, the editing took a couple hours, the copies took about 15 minutes, and then there's like cleanup for another 15 minutes. All right, next up is on Monday, September 30th, Holly Rock single is released. And as we know, Holly Rock, I'm going to read what Duane has in his book really quickly. Holly Rock by Sheila E was released on the soundtrack of Crush Groove, which peaked at number 79 on the Billboard Top Pop Albums chart and number 14 on the Billboard Top Black Albums chart. The song had been released as a single earlier in the year. So we're gonna move forward, and
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So this question for you in the chat. So Crush Groove in just 1985, for you and for people in the chat, at this point, was hip hop still the child or little brother of R&B, funk, disco, or had it become its own thing? You always talk about that moment when hip hop stopped being a subgenre of funk or a subgenre of disco, or or a subgenre of R&B, and became its own. Because I'm old enough, I remember the R&B stations that would say soft soul and oldies and no rap. And for me, that was the moment when rap was becoming its own thing. And so for you, did you at the time, in real time, with Crush Groove and this particular project, were you thinking of it as still a subgenre of other types of Black music, or had it already become for you its own thing?
I will answer this question. Like, so similar to you, Celie. I am a child of Prince, and I was like real music by real musicians, which equals real instruments. So
Right.
it took me a long time to get into sample culture, and I didn't get into sample culture until A Tribe Called Quest's Low End Theory, because they sampled jazz.
Ah, okay.
And it was like very rhythmic. It wasn't as beat heavy. It was actually also bass heavy, not like drum beat heavy. Like, so bass heavy as well as jazz instrumentation heavy. And then, but when Crush Groove came out, for me, hip hop was almost like a different world, or two parallel highways. I was on the Prince Highway and I wasn't getting off.
Right.
And I knew a lot of people were on the hip hop highway. And I've said this before, I will be in the club today and they will put on a hip hop song. The club will go wild. And I'll turn to my friend, you're like, what is this? Like, who's this? Like, I wasn't paying attention in real time. I was in Purple World. Like,
right.
so for me, it was more like a parallel universe. Like, I knew it existed. And then, so when Crush Groove came out, the only reason why I went to go see, do you want to guess the only reason why I went to go see Crush Groove?
The same reason I did. Sheila E was in it. I mean, it was a Prince connection. I'm gonna be 100%. It was a Prince connection, and I probably would not have seen it without the Prince connection.
I wouldn't have seen it. Yeah. I would have not seen it. And so, and then at that time, again, Sheila was everything to me. Because I had never seen anyone like Sheila. And what I mean by that, a woman, a female lead playing drums, playing percussion, looking amazing, commanding the stage. Like, Sheila was incredible. And then one thing that we forget is, this sounds a little silly, but it's important to me, she cut her hair. And like, she cut her hair and their hair was dope. I was like, oh my God, this is so incredible. And then like the whole Romance 1600 aesthetic. So speaking of the Romance 1600 aesthetic, in real time, I was like, I don't understand. Why is Sheila E being Sheila E in the Crush Groove? You know what I mean?
Right.
It seems like they would have made different choices in terms of her wardrobe, but I know I had read, like in Black Beat or Rock and Soul, that Prince actually visited like the set of Crush Groove. And so because Prince was Prince in big letters then, you know, like maybe he said, you know, look, yo, she's gonna be dressed like Sheila E.
Right.
Like, don't try to switch it up. But I always thought that that was a little odd, you know, in terms of the Crush Groove world. And, you know, I just remember reading back then that, you know, even some of the hip hop people who were on Crush Groove didn't take too kindly to Sheila's presence. You know, in the film. Do you remember, you know, reading some of that?
Well, I remember in real time, and then I remember Sheila discussing it later about the same thing. You know what I found interesting about that? Because everything you saying rings true, but in real time. So I was like you. I was somebody who didn't get into hip hop in that time, but in real time, I'm talking about the people in my neighborhood and the people in my school. It didn't seem like it was a big issue for a lot of people going to see the movie. Like it didn't seem like this Sheila E. Prince, you know, Purple Citizen in this hip hop world. That is, I don't remember people in the neighborhood and people in my school talking about it other than enjoying the movie. And I will say that going to see the movie, I want to say surprising, but I should have been like, I like the movie. Like I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the whole premise of it. As somebody who was not I wasn't a big hip hop fan. I really liked the LL Cool J scene when he busts into the room and just starts doing it. Because that kind of gave me a Purple Rainish kind of feel to it. So yes, I hear what you're saying, but I think that for a lot of people, in real time, those worlds, they didn't clash as much for people as we thought it would have, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people, I don't think a lot of hip hop heads or a lot of people who were into it in real time saw Sheila E as much as an oddity, other than in their mind, oh, she's with Prince, she would dress like that. Let's get on with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so Carol was asking, were young people really divisive in their music enjoyment? They were at my high school. I mean, because like the Prince Michael Jackson divide was real. I mean, it was fighting real. So there was definitely a divisive, and then I do think that there are people like me and Celie, and we're talking about in terms of 1985, where hip hop just wasn't our lane.
Right.
It just like we weren't. I wasn't listening for it, and I wish that either Ricky or Michael Dean was here today because they were on the other lane.
Right. Exactly.
But I wasn't on that lane with them. I was on my own road. I was, in the purple world, and I wasn't going anywhere. So for sure. All right. So next up is October 1985. And Celie, do you mind reading about that?
You want me to read the opening 2 paragraphs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you want me to stop at Wednesday or go into Wednesday?
No, stop at it.
Okay. So October 1985, October was a busy month for Prince, but not in the studio. Because he was directing as well as the lead actor, he had a full plate, and he was also overseeing the scoring, rewriting the movie, and in many ways, he was co-producing the film as well. Any of these are a full-time job, but doing them all is practically unprecedented, especially for a man who was making his directorial debut after acting in only one movie. And yet, Prince still insisted on having a piano in his hotel room in case inspiration struck him, and it always did. The stakes for Prince could not have been higher. A hit would solidify his status in Hollywood, and a flop could derail his movie career completely. If he felt the pressure, he wasn't showing it. Quote, he was in a great mood as far as I could see, remembers the editor Rebecca Ross. She continues, he never had any failures at that point, and he was pretty high on everything and was going on in his life, and he had carte blanche, so it was fun, end quote. And I understand what she's saying. I would interject the opposite. Prince had failures, right? The Rolling Stones debacle and the James Brown debacle. Prince had failures, and I think that by this time he realized that failures don't make or break you, and that if I can come back from those, I can certainly come back from this. And even the fact, if you remember the Unauthorized documentary, I love what they talk about when Funky Town took off and Prince had his first 2 records. It was kind of like, hey, why is this song kind of taking off? And yet my 2 records, and it recharged him. So I think that it wasn't that he hadn't had failures. I think that coming into and maturing into, and I know it's crazy to say maturing into his own, he's still in his 20s, right? But in coming into this, it made me think about the interview in Rolling Stone a few years later when he's talking to Rolling Stone, and he's saying, he says that everybody's saying that this is crucial for Prince, yet I'm editing a movie with somebody else's money, right? And so I think that he was just at a place where he was really comfortable with who he was and what he was going to make, and he knew he wouldn't be devastated if it didn't do Purple Rain numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this passage is that he was in, I can't remember what, the editor says he was in a great mood as far as I can see. Mm-hmm. Now, that seems like a incidental, not very important quote, but it means everything to me because you can see it in the film. Mm-hmm. Like just the fun that they were having, that was one of the reasons why Under the Cherry Moon was and still and will forever be my favorite Prince film, because you can just see how joyful
Yep.
it was.
Yep.
There, you know, like, and if you, let's say, because, you know, we just talked about the gold experience during 30, if you compare that to, say, The Undertaker,
right,
he did not look happy.
right. Right. Yeah, I as much as I love the music, I always thought that was a kind of spooky or creepy film. Like I love the music, but the first thing I did was rip the audio from that so I couldn't have to watch it again. Like that was the first thing I did was I ripped the audio. I think I've watched that thing twice. Although the audio is in my regular, is in my what is it called? Prime listening. I've only watched the video twice because like I thought it was just spooky.
Yeah. Well, so for me, it wasn't spooky. It was more about Prince. I watched Prince's face. And yes, the music is a fire. I mean, fire, Lady Cab Driver. But I don't think Prince cracked one smirk, one smile. Every time I watch that, I feel uncomfortable because I was like, I wonder what is going on, because he just did not seem happy.
It's definitely supposed to be dark.
Yes. It definitely came across as dark for sure. But what I love about Under the Cherry Moon is just the love for life and just how happy he was.
Right.
So that's one of the things that drew me to Under the Cherry Moon, and still does, you know, especially during dark days. If I need to make, you know, cheer myself up, Under the Cherry Moon is definitely the way that I go for sure. All right. So next up is I'll read really quickly about the America third single from Around the World in a Day. It's released in the United States, backed by Girl, Celie. And
there you go.
The track reached number 46 on the pop chart and number 35 on the black chart. This is where we actually need to see what was on the charts, because it's really curious that it didn't make it, you know, anywhere near the top 20 and all of that. Yes, Kim, exactly. Joie de vivre. So one of the things that I love about, anytime I think about America, I think about the extended version of America, the single. And I am so grateful of the estate, again, kind of taking us back to the beginning, releasing Around the World in a Day singles box set, for releasing like the, you know, expanded edition, like the marble vinyl, because Around the World in a Day is an important album. And I'm glad that this is my Dear Estate moment, actually thanking the estate for actually shining a light on Around the World in a Day, because it is important. And I think that the song America is more important now more than ever. All right. So one quick thing. When I was pulling the screenshots from Graffiti Bridge, I always forget that Eric Leeds is in George Clinton's club. So Eric Leeds is on stage with Seth's mom and George Clinton. So I just think that is so incredible, because, you know, I have to continue to show my love of all things Eric Leeds. And there is another book that is about to be released that Casey Rain of The Violet Reality interviewed John McKee about his brand new book called A Sign of the Times. And it's all about Sign of the Times, which I think is really awesome that there is a book dedicated to just Sign of the Times. I haven't had an opportunity to read it. Were you able to read it in advance? Or
I have not had a chance to know.
Because I know Michael Dean got a copy, but I wasn't. I was too busy with the symposium and everything. But he's been on The Violet Reality, and then he was also on Electric Vibe. And but before we get to the Prince, I can't stress enough This album is amazing. I finally got my vinyl cover, my vinyl copy. And Nicolay is Prince fam, hardcore Prince fam,
Yep.
90s Prince fam, 90s Prince fam. So we want to support Nicolay, and we're not just supporting him because he's a friend. This music is incredible. If you haven't listened to it, you are doing yourself a disservice. Make sure if you don't even buy the vinyl that you go on all streaming services and search for Terra Firma. You can hear it with the vocals or without the vocals, either way, because he's released it both ways, as instrumentals and with the vocals. Either way, it's like an amazing time.
And he's been making great music for a long time.
For decades with the Foreign Exchange, Fonte of Little Brother, all of that. Then we've talked about this, but you know, I love me some Corey Henry. Corey Henry has a new album called Divine Time, a lot of gospel. You can't go wrong with Corey for some joy. And then
I like the way they did that album with like the smudges and that's because when I think of albums, that's how I think of them.
I do too. It's a great shot. And I love that they're referencing like albums from the 70s. This looks almost like a Barry White.
and I want to say, giving love to the brother with the jacket with no shirt. Every time there's movies, they always want to make a joke about the brother wearing the jacket with no. I have y'all know, if you weren't there in the 70s, if you weren't there in the 80s, that was hot to be a brother in a jacket with no shirt. Just don't make the mistake like I did and go to a Jackson State football game in a jacket with no shirt, and I damn near fell out from the heat. But other than that, the brother in the jacket with no shirt, that's fine. All right, let's move on.
So actually, I want to know this too, Nick Felden. Like, what songs were ahead of America on the R&B charts, the Black charts in 1985? Can somebody do some Googles and figure out like what was ahead of, what was the top 10 maybe this week in 1985? And Big Sexy just ordered the Sun Times book. It's 500 pages. Let's go.
Okay.
All right. And let's see. The democracy.fund said jacket and no shirt, bring it back, C. Lee. Next. Okay, we're going to talk about next. What did Prince do this week? And we're going to Sheila E here in Philly in November. Amazing. And I think,
all right, Brother Brian, good job.
I think Sheila's playing at City Winery, Sheila E and the E Train. Oh, I'm so happy. I am so happy that you got to see him at the San Francisco Jazz. Yes, he throws down. Carol, people that don't listen to me anymore, you tell them how amazing. I'm trying to tell you, if you need some joy in your life, go see Corey Henry. No matter what, he will put some joy and cheer in your step. Okay, so Chris Bournet is taking a guess. Is it The Sweetest Taboo in 1985 that is doing better than America on the charts? Can somebody do their Googles, as Michael Dean would say? Okay, so Bilal is still touring, and this is another person who puts a lot of joy in my heart. And in fact, you can see a lot of live video from Bilal. Let me turn this off so you can see at Groovement 71, a lot of amazing videos there that you can see. And we last saw him in Philadelphia on September 18th, and he played a lot from Love for Sale, his unreleased album. And then I was hoping that Michael Dean and Theo, neither of them are here, because Bilal is performing for free in Seattle tonight as part of this block party. All right. And then for those of you in the tri-state area, you cannot miss this tribute. It's going to be Bilal, members of Living Color, Eddie Martinez, Lenny White, so many amazing people doing this album in full, this Don Blackman album. And if you haven't listened to it, you are missing out. It's one of the best funk classics from beginning to end of an album. So really looking forward to this on October 17th, one show. And then my beloved Alice Smith is going to be in Chi-Town, Chicago on November 2nd. And then there's also a lot of amazing video of Alice Smith. If you haven't seen her live on the YouTube channel at Groovement 71, It was an incredible show because it was just she and that's the reason why I got on this shirt. She for Alice Smith, as well as all of the women of P-Funk. She was Alice Smith's second album. It has a song on there called Another Love that Prince actually covered. So there's your Prince connection. And also Alice performed with Prince one time in New York City. So yeah. Okay. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch this from the Electric Vibe, which is Hucky Austin's YouTube series, you should. I love anytime Craig Rice talks. He is like a Prince encyclopedia. Yep. Him and Alan Lees and Eric Lees, they're like the Prince encyclopedia. And I would highly suggest that you run to watch this episode. It's just a little over an hour. A lot of gems being dropped. And yes, Karan, just got to do that. Yes, Bilal. We love Bilal. Okay, let's see. Democracy for Fun has... No, we're not. We got that. We got that from the book. What we're looking for is, since it only hit 35 on the Black charts and only 45 on the pop charts, what was before that?
What were other songs on the chart?
What were the top 10?
Like, what were the other songs on the chart that didn't let America make it up the chart?
Yeah, that's what we want to know. Yeah. Thank you so much, Electric Vibe, for the incredible conversations that you've been having. And I know that you also interviewed the author of the Sign of Times book, John McKee. So if you want to watch it through Electric Vibe, you can do so as well. Okay, so here we go. Big Sexy is saying Freeway of Love, which was Aretha, and Cherish, and that's Sade, right, Sadie?
Yeah.
Ahead, a Raspberry Beret, and oh, Sheila was behind it.
Well, you know what? Is that Sade's Cherish, or is that Cooling Gang's Cherish?
Which Cherish is it? Can somebody find out?
Maybe Cooling Gang's is Cherish the Love.
And then, so JD is saying the first 2 weeks of October 1985, the #1 song was "You Are My Lady" by Freddie Jackson.
There we go.
That was huge.
Yes, it was.
Oh my goodness.
People forget Freddie Jackson's high was super high. Like people forget that album, that Freddie Jackson album. Like Freddie Jackson was like, I was just thinking that like 85, 86 was some of that peak, that peak R&B kind of coming out of the old school, going into that new school. Yeah, so 85, 86, R&B was on fire.
Yeah, and Lee Christian said Vernon Reed's new solo album, Hoodoo Telemetry. Am I saying that correctly? Came out yesterday. And he was also at, was it the Blue Note City Winery? Just a couple weeks back. And Big Sexy said it was Cherish by Gang. And then Carol said he spoke. Yes, I remember that. He spoke at the 2018 University of Minnesota Symposium. I remember I was there too. And Carol said that you guys were in the audience together for that.
Yeah, we were. Met a lot of cool people that weekend.
Yeah.
Met a lot of cool people.
So let's see. Love Sexy 71 says, I can see why America was not on the top. Oh, Sheila Saving All of My Love. Sweetest Taboo and You Are My Lady was...
Ooh, that's some fire right there.
1985.
Oh my goodness. That's some fire.
Thank you. Thank you all. And then let's see. Yes. You Are My Lady was huge. Yes, Big Sexy.
Big Sexy said, shout out to the Freddie Jackson shoulder pads. No, I like y'all to have no shoulder pad suits. I had a couple of shoulder pad suits. I ain't gonna sit here in front.
Yes, and Computer Blue says other notable hits was Part-Time Lover by Stevie Wonder.
Wee.
All right. Let's see.
And you know what? And maybe I'm wrong. Looking at all those songs and all those hits and looking what was happening then, I really think that the live version of America would have hit harder on the charts than the 21 version. Just looking at the songs and what people were feeling, I really think if they would have had the live version on that record as well, but they'd already, and here's what my confusion, show you how stupid I am, they had already pressed it, because remember at the end of the video, Prince is throwing it out to the fans, right? So it had already been pressed, so there was no way to put it on there by then.
Yeah. So Sheila E is going to be at, Sheila's been touring a lot, and I haven't been keeping up with Sheila's touring because she's doing it so much that I run out of time trying to put together where she always is going, because she's nonstop. But there is an upcoming show on October 17th in Boston at the City Winery. And we want to remember Dr. Funkenberry as his cancer battle continues. So please continue to contribute to his GoFundMe, because medical bills don't get any cheaper. And if you can't afford to contribute to the GoFundMe, send him a kind word and let him know that he is loved. And the same for Addie Durant. We want to make sure Addie knows that she is loved. And again, you may say, like, I don't know who Addie is, but she was pivotal to the Clubhouse version of Purple Rain that was enacted by fans in audio. And it was really well done. Like, it was professionally done. It was no halfing about it. And it's still on Clubhouse. You can still listen to it. It's a really great treat to hear it. And then obviously Des Dickerson also has one as well. And let me see. Oh, so let's talk about October. So this is what Prince did this week in October. So I know that some of you are going to be really sad, but we are going to take a hiatus until Saturday, November 1st. And it's not like I'm not going to be working, because I need to edit the video from the 30 Virtual Symposium. I need to start working on the I Wonder You 40 Symposium that we're having in person. So this will be the first official break we've ever done in almost 3 years for What Did Prince Do This Week. So it's not like I won't be working. I'm doing a Prince. Like, I just won't be in the studio, but I'm still working. I'm still doing my Under the Cherry Moon I'm shoot. So just be aware of that. So I will, after this episode, put up a coming soon for the November 1st. So I hope that you will subscribe to my YouTube channel or to Michael Dean's YouTube channel. So I hope that you will come back. And I know that you will come back, because you came back today after all those technical difficulties. And I so appreciate you for that. But I just need to, I'm not taking a break because I'm still going to be working. It's really hard to juggle all of these different things that I'm doing, because I'm also writing essays about Prince and all of that. So I hope you understand. Yes, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate it, because I'm not going to be resting. I'm still going to be working. Yes, I'm going to be in the warehouse playground. That's where I'm going to be. So I am so grateful that Celie showed up today. And thank you so much. Let's see if I can make this happen, at least so we can have one. Yes, sexy. Hopefully that'll be okay. Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So what, go ahead. Let Brother Andre and everybody say it again when you're coming back. There we go.
There we go.
So I'm going to give homework to people in the chat, because when you said that, my first thought was, man, and you need the break because you've been really working. But as you've noticed, and we've all noticed, the videos are now for the first time hitting 400 and 500.
Yeah.
And so to you guys, we all appreciate what Prof Duff has been doing for the past 3 years, and then even longer than that. So my homework for you guys for the next 3 weeks, you guys need to pump What Did Prince Do This Week. You need to share it. You need to send it out and let folks know that you're sharing it and sending it out, so we can all come back on November 1st. Because what we don't want to do is lose the momentum.
Yeah.
I think that what we've been seeing happening with all of the great guests that she's curated, with all the great content that she's curated, do not let this momentum fall. So you guys need to, and I'll be doing it now. If you got a Substack, if you got your own whatever, I hear you, Sister Kim. I need you guys to, let's not let this momentum, because y'all know what I say, if we don't tell the story properly, somebody else is going to tell the story improperly. And so we need to take these 3 weeks to make sure that the motivation and everything that we got and the momentum, that's the word I want, that the momentum that we have does not fall off. And then we come back fired up and ready to go November 1st. That's it. I'll shut up.
I'm so happy that you said that. I mean, because part of me does not want to take a break because I'm afraid that we have built this momentum. I'm finally getting over 500 views per episode, and it's not about me. It's really about Duane's book. It's really about Prince. And I'm afraid that people might not come back, but I'm hoping that you'll go back and watch some of the episodes that you haven't watched. Again, I'm going to be uploading video from the symposium if you're into the Gold Experience or Exodus, and there were some amazing roundtable discussions as well as presentations about that you'll actually watch it, and that I hope that you'll continue to hit that like button, because unfortunately YouTube is all about the algorithm, and some people may not even be seeing these in their timeline because of the algorithm. I mean, Kim has said it before. I love that, Anil. Hi, thank you for bringing it back on the one. That's right. We're bringing it back on November 1st on the one. Yes, Blay Brown. Exactly. So I'm glad that you typed this, because I'm just getting ready also for the parade tour. So remember when we went through like the Purple Rain tour, like I had to find a lot of all of the reviews, you know, like everything like that all takes time. So it will also help me do more research for what did Prince do this week and all of that. So let's see. Oh, yes. Michael Dean will still be doing his thing. He doesn't even know that we're taking a hiatus, but I'm sure he'll be happy about it, because, you know, Michael has to wake up mad early because he's in Seattle to do this every week, and he has a family. So yeah, it's, as Kim says, it's a great time to catch up. Yes, El Michelle, it's time you can do a little best of. And to be honest, it will give you an opportunity to either catch up in the book if you're behind, so you can catch up on your reading, or even better, you can start reading this incredible book, Mothership Connected by Seth Neblett, or you can listen to the audiobook of Andrea Swenson's Deeper Blues about Cornbread Harris, Jimmy Jam's father. You can also read Pamela Ayo Yatundi's Dearly Beloved. There's a brand new Sign of the Times book coming out. So there's like a lot of stuff that you can do to keep the What Did Prince Do This Week spirit alive while we're on hiatus for 3 weeks or so.
There you go.
Yes, that's right. So just go back. Yes, go back to the to the polished solid vault to catch up. And thank you so much, Karan. I really appreciate it. All right, so yes, LTK. I know all about these. I don't. So I use Descript. Descript is one of those, and it can like pick clips, but it doesn't pick the clips that I would pick. So I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, but I still kind of like the curate, and it takes longer. I could be quicker if I use AI in terms of, I mean, select curation. I don't think AI should do. I use it to do some editing, because you can now edit video through text, which is amazing. You just edit the text instead of the timeline for the video. And yeah, I can do that. But the curation part, like there's key moments that I don't think AI will catch. So yeah. And yes, Kim, you can watch the weekly playlist. Timekeeper is telling us.
And thank you, Dre, and thank you, Brian. Thank both of y'all. I appreciate that.
Yes, and I love this. The human touch is as obvious as a lack of it is, Lee Christian. That's right.
And he's not talking about Rick Springfield song. Human touch. We all need it. All right, that's enough.
Yes, for sure. Yes, the playlist. Speaking of which, I need to finish the one for today, and I forgot to post the one for last week. So I'm also going to be catching up and, you know, putting some finishing touches on these things, because it's just everything. If you want to do things, you know, done well, as Prince would say, if you want to, you know, it takes time to do these things. So I hope that you'll understand. And with that being said, I'm going to have C. Lee, since Michael Dean isn't with us, to take us out.
So as Prof. Duff said, we give out prayers and kindness and good wishes to all the people that's struggling. We know what's happening in our world today, and we'll take a page out of Prince's book, which is we're going to grow every day to become better while we do something about it. We're going to grow every day to become better while we're producing art, while we're doing our work. What we want to do is be the change we want to see. As Alice Walker and many other people have said, and the famous poet June Jordan said, we are the ones for whom we are waiting. So we thank all of y'all in the chat. We thank Prof. Duff. We thank Michael Dean, Brother Dean. We thank all of the great creators out there that's helping to keep this legacy alive. We will see you guys in 3 weeks. And as I always say, where two or more gathered in the name of Funktivity, funky things will happen. And we're going to be funky for the next 3 weeks. And we'll see y'all on November 1. That's it.
And we can't forget about Pretty Ricky.
And oh, yes, Pretty Ricky, thumping the bass and always here. Thank you for that, Pretty Ricky. Oh, and Ted Talks bass as well.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank y'all, guys. And we'll see y'all in 3 weeks.
All right.